And we're live, and it's Champ Chat, the 2017 Heroclix World Champion Edition. And if you don't know who that is already, I'm about to introduce him. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to welcome Howard Brock in audio form, not in video form.
Hello, everybody.
And Howard is the second of the Double Crown winners. So we're actually also talking to not only the singles world champion, but one of the three doubles world champions. I'm going to be talking to the other two sometime in the coming weeks. I haven't contacted them just yet. But let's start with our current guest, Mr. Howard Brock. And when it comes to Champ Chat, I always have a question for every one of our guests. And we want to know the history of the champion, or the history in this case of Mr. Howard Brock. Howard, when did you start playing Heroclix, and when did you get into competitive play?
We started playing Heroclix when Easton was 7 years old. That's the easiest way for me to reference it. And he's 20 now, so that's 13. He's approaching 20. He's approaching 21. So he was 20 in March. So it's been a little over 13 years. So I think we're having our 15th anniversary. So we came into the game probably a year and a half after it started. We were playing. The way I got into it was kind of by accident. I've told this story before, and I kind of enjoy telling it, so it's no biggie. I was in Books A Million one day and shopping, and I was by myself. And there's a center aisle in Books A Million where they put a lot of games and a lot of sale stuff and all that kind of stuff. And there was an Infinity Challenge starter set there. And I stopped and like, hey, what is this? And I looked and flipped it around. I saw they had a little Wolverine in the front that you could see, and they give you a sneak peek where you could see inside, see the actual figure. And I was like amazed. My God, how did they make this guy? How did they make something this small? Read, saw that it was a collectible game. I like games, and I loved comics when I was a kid. And I'm like, this is fantastic. So I didn't buy it right then, but I came back a week later with my kids. That would be my two sons, Easton and Tanner. Tanner's Easton's older brother who used to play Heroclix. I went in the store and I said, hey, you guys can both buy something. I'm here to buy a book. You can buy whatever you want to buy, within reason, of course. And I said, but you might want to go check this out over here. And we bought it. I don't remember which one of them chose it, but we did get that. And we came on that night. We played. I had a buddy, and we were doing 2-on-2 matches and trying to learn the game. We started the game very vanilla, which is, we had nobody to rely on. So we were very vanilla. We had no superpowers. We just started with just the blank dials and incorporated the superpowers over time, one at a time, to try to learn the game. And when we started playing, we played till like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. This was summertime, so it wasn't during school, but we played at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Got up the next day, talked about it all day, and started playing again that night. Played real late. So I said, and we had to get more figures. So I went back to Books A Million, and they had some booster packs there, and I bought a few of those, took them home, added them to our stuff, and anyway, we kept going back every night and buying more. And not that the store was full of stuff, but we ended up buying everything that they had. We want more, so we looked up Heroclix.com and found a local venue, which was our comic book store, and I went there, and that's when we started really playing. We ended up meeting a judge there who taught us everything that we didn't know, and we started playing tournaments there on a local level. And a little bit down the road, we won a few LEs and stuff like that. Here's a funny thing, and I know that I've been through all the different kinds of ways that Whiz Kids have done with their tournament playing, and we can talk. I know we mentioned that we might want to talk about the new thing they've got right now where they're testing tournament scoring.
Yeah.
Well, at that time, our local judge, he didn't do time. He did 10 rounds, and meaning it was just it was 10 turns, and that when the game ended, and that's a different way of playing. And
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about turtling, or you talk about killing something and running and so on and so forth, but that's the way we played the game. We knew no better. Found out differently. Our first major event that we ever went to, that was really our first true competitive play, and also the first time that I met my friends in Georgia, and I'm pretty sure the first time that I ever saw Terry Turman. We went to Douglasville, Georgia, and we played in a pre-release. That pre-release had 100 people playing in it. Pre-releases were like WKOs back then. They were very selective and spread around, and they had a lot. And Whiz Kids gave a lot of prizing. But anyway, we played in that thing, and I remember playing. Sat down with my opponent, and I went, okay, we're on turn one. He looked at me and I said, okay, turn two. And I was keeping track of the turns, not realizing that we were going by time. So turn 10, I pushed my guys to kill some of the stuff and ran away, and knew that he couldn't get to me. I said, and reached over and said, good game. And he goes, what are you doing? And I said, well, what do you mean that the game's over? That was turn 10. And he goes, we don't play by turns. And they called the judge over, and I found out very quickly, the hard way, that wasn't the way they played. Oddly enough, I still won that game, but that was our first competitive play.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Now, that way of that 10 turns thing sounds like a player who used to play Warhammer. It's also a very common thing in their tournaments. So, I've heard of that before, but 10 turns you can get through pretty quickly in this game compared to games of that scale. So, before we get into this, if you've listened to the podcast, Howard has told a lot of these stories before. There is some news content coming. I promise you. We just got to get to those questions. But of course, the next question we always ask is, what brought you here on Champ Chat? And that is Heroclix World Championships. So, your whole experience there, how it went, day to day, getting into Worlds itself. And I also remember you competed in U.S. Nationals as well. So a little bit about that as well, just to kind of bring everybody up to speed on that.
Well, first of all, I want to say that I've been going, my first convention was Origins, and it wasn't, when it was there, it wasn't Worlds. It was just they ran a really big event. But that's what got me hooked on conventions, and then honestly, I've had a love for Origins ever since. So I've been to a lot of them, and I've been a lot to Gen Con. I've been to Dragon Con. I've been to a lot of Whiz Kids events. And I'm not saying this because I won it. I'm saying this because it simply was the best run event, the best event that Whiz Kids has ever done. There were some minor things, but overall, it was just great. The way the structure, the way they ran it, the prizing, the way they treated us. You were there. What do you think? It was just awesome.
I think overwhelmingly myself and everybody else has said this, and we all agree with you that this is by far the smoothest run. And I've only been to Worlds last year and this year, but it's night and day in bare comparison. Absolutely. And it was probably the best run event I've had the pleasure of being a part of.
Yeah, they set a new standard, which I only hope that we can do as well in Rock. We've prided ourselves on running. We had some glitches last year, of course, in Rock, but we have prided ourselves. And I think that we will this year, and I think that if we do as well as they did, we will be a great success, because they ran a great week. So my experience, usually when I go to these things, I play a lot more battle royals than I did. I had no time to play battle royals. I was competing pretty much. I mean, I played in a few, don't get me wrong, but I had no time. I was competing in either nationals, teams, or worlds, and they're almost to the end of each one of them. And even when I wasn't in nationals, my son was. So I tend to not want to play when he's playing. I want to watch him. So I was involved in those things the whole time. Nationals was great. I still don't know that it needs to be there at along with Worlds. I think the limelight of Nationals gets taken away. I think that the winner of Nationals should have a little bit more glory. I guess is the way to put it. And he has a day of glory, and then it's gone. I mean, if you win a Nationals in any other country, you have a little bit of time to soak in the glory. Um, so I still don't know that it needs to be there, but since it was, we competed. I competed in nationals with no. My goal was never to win nationals. My goal was to qualify for worlds. Uh, the way I feel is if you can make the cut in worlds, that's all you need to do. You need to get into worlds and make the cut. You have a chance. If you're in the top, but if you make the cut, everybody there's got a chance. Um, so nationals, I was playing very. I don't want to say non-competitively. I'm always competitive, but I was very relaxed. And it was an opportunity to learn how my team functioned and see what everybody else is running, make some mistakes, and not feel like it was a earth shattering, lose some games, not feel like it was devastating. I felt coming out of nationals that my team was solid and that I could have won every single game that I played, and that there was a lot of things that I as a player could do better, and I made adjustments. So when I went into Worlds, I felt very, very comfortable with my team. I felt very, very ready with my team, and obviously I had a good run. I eliminated the mistakes. I still have some mistakes that I made that but I got away with most of them, and that was what was important. And Worlds was just smooth. I mean, just winning Worlds. I have to cite it back to when I played sports, and I played in some huge tournaments when I played sports, and it was the same kind of feeling. You start playing, and time just goes by. I mean, I remember playing softball, and we would play in. I've literally played in softball tournaments, some of the biggest in the world, where we've had 100 teams of softball players, and we've won those tournaments. And I remember playing in softball, and it would be a 3 day tournament, and there's this huge crowd, and everybody's running around, and you play your game, and then you play another game, and then all of a sudden, you look up and nobody's around, and you're in the finals. And I mean, there's some people there, but I mean, it's just like everything's dissipated, and it's kind of a weird feeling. It's like, where'd everybody go? What happened? Time just arose. So that was great. And then when we went to teams, um, we felt we're very confident players. We're very confident in our team. Um, we This is our third time that we went out and played. Last year we placed fifth in Worlds with a not so with a okay team, a good team, but not. I mean, figures. Um, and we finished second in the Rock Cup last year in teams, and it was also we didn't feel like we had the greatest pool in the world. We thought we just had a good pool. Um, this year, we had a fantastic pool, and when we pulled that, we looked at it, and we knew what we were capable of doing. We felt like we had a really legitimate shot to win the whole thing, and we did.
Awesome. Now, with all of that, how you feeling about it? Like, are you overwhelmed? Were you just super pumped, super excited? Like, or is it just kind of game mode and then a relief when it's all done?
I don't. Th- I think the team there was no pressure on. I think we all wanted to win for each other. I wanted to win. I think they wanted to win for me. I wanted to win for Warren, and not really. I wanted to win for my son too, but I wanted Warren to have that feeling of being something, of having a big major win. So that was. But we were all there for each other, and that when you play like that, it kind of takes the pressure off. And being that I'd already won the big thing the day before, I didn't feel it was a great feeling, but it was a different feeling. Um, the Somebody asked me one time in an interview, I think it was Generation Clicks, what was more important to me? Would it be winning the Rock Cup or winning the World Championship? And you would think that since I run the Rock Cup, that might, and I want to promote the Rock Cup, the easy answer would be to win the Rock Cup. And that's not the answer for me. And it's not, and I have to, people have to understand what I mean by that. I don't think that winning the Rock Cup is worse than winning the World Championship and vice versa. I think the competition is just as stiff. The prizing and being more or less on top of the world is kind of equal in both places. But for me, I've been playing in the World Championship for a while, and it was a personal goal. And so I've had good runs at the World Championship where I thought that I could have won a few years. I've had some bad luck at the World Championship for some of my own doing, but so winning that was honestly was more important to me, only because I mean it's kind of like winning Daytona and winning the NASCAR championship. What's more important to you, NASCAR or Daytona? There's going to be some players that tell you winning Daytona is more important. And there's going to be some that say they would rather win Daytona. And for me, I wanted that world championship. So it was an immense amount of relief and accomplishment when I won that. And because I'd stressed over it over the years, I had spent a lot of time wanting to win it, stressing over it, being hyped about it, getting mad at times because of failure or doing something stupid or whatever. This year, I had my wife and Warren both made the same comment and agreed with me in the fact that I was more relaxed this year. I wasn't coming in there stressed out. I wasn't stressed at all this year. My mentality was that I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to compete. But if I get knocked out, I get knocked out, and that's the way that it is. And I can't. Not that I didn't want it, but it just wasn't all in there. It just wasn't like this is everything in the world to win this. And for some reason that postured into a win. And when it was over with, even though I felt that way, it was an immense amount of a big adrenaline rush, a big sense of relief, big sense of major accomplishment.
Awesome. And I'm taking from you at this point where it's like I got into the single elimination and nerves took over. I think every year that you do a little better, the next year it's just like I can just calm down. You know, I've been here. I know what it's like. And it's a really good takeaway to have. And before we get into our next set of questions, I'm going to field one fan question because the fan, Mr. William Koss, has asked a question that I always ask of the champions. Are you willing to or able to discuss your ideas for your championship figure?
Partly. I'm not going to say what we're making, but we decided to do something unique if WizKids will let us. We actually just got our non-disclosure contracts with WizKids in the mail today, and we're sending them back in, and hopefully we'll start having some conversation back and forth. And we decided, as the three of us, and you'll understand this a little bit better, to not disclose what we're making because we're in a unique situation where I'm involved in the making of two figures. I've got complete rights to one and a third right to the other. And what we decided to do was just all of us make two figures together, and we want to make two figures that work together, which is something that's never been done. So until we get the okay that we can do that from WizKids, and that we kind of just don't want to say. We don't want to say what we got. We may have to change everything completely. But what we're intent on doing right now is making two figures that work together.
I love that idea so much. And I remember hearing, I think it was either Patrick or Kevin had mentioned that they had originally wanted to do a Hydra team base for their figure when they won. And I liked the idea, but yours sounds a little bit more within the realistic realm, or the realms of realism, as it were. and I really hope that it can happen.
Hydra team base would have been cool.
Yeah, I would have loved something like that. All right, so now we get into the current affairs portion, and one of your figures' names is on this, and it's the watch list. The watch list is back.
Yeah.
And this time around, we have the Goblin King and Jakeem Thunder on the list, along with the Pim Tank and Felix Faust. Now, I'm going to reserve all this time for Howard's opinions on it. We have the Metal Lab on Sunday where you'll get my full opinions on it. So, Howard, I'm going to open the floor to you. Your ideas on the watch list, like how do you feel about it? Do you have any suggestions for it? Is there anything you think doesn't necessarily have to be in there or isn't going to get changed?
Well, it's very interesting. Is this the second or the third time Felix Faust has been on the watch list?
This is his second appearance on the watch list.
Weren't we told one time that when a figure went on the watch list that he would never go back again?
Was that something we were told? Because I feel like they got some words to eat on that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was said. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't have a problem with Felix Faust going on the watch list because he's obviously not a favorite character of ours. We felt like we banned him in Rock, so we don't like what he does, period. But I think what happened is that people started seeing some things that Felix Faust could do with the way everything was worded. Some of it wasn't even exploited. There's a certain power that he gets where he locks in a number and it actually for sidestep the way it's interpreted is that you actually can have sidestep instead of going 2. You can actually go 3.
Yeah, the dark blue power.
Yeah, and I think that WizKids got privy to that, and they're like, "Holy cow, we've left this wide open." And our whole problem with Felix Faust hasn't been really so much the powers that he's got, but the fact that he enables the other player not to play. And yes, he has to roll, and statistically that shouldn't happen, but it does. And I know I was locked down and couldn't do anything in one game. I still won the game, but I know I was locked down for 7 or 8 turns in one time against Felix, where I just sat there and just ho-hum, couldn't do anything. And people that have not experienced that don't understand. They really don't understand. All it takes is being a little bit hot in dice, and your opponent can't do anything. Now, I've also had games where the opponent rolled nothing, and Felix Faust might as well not have been there. But it's still the fact that the game is supposed to be played between 2 players, and when you have one player that can't play, that's not the game that we want. So that's why we banned it. So I don't really know what they're going to come back and revisit. I don't know. I wish they just would have retired him and we wouldn't have had this problem. Felix Faust was definitely a presence at Worlds. People were using him, and they're talking about turtling. Felix Faust causes a turtling effect. What happens is somebody just protects himself or puts himself in a certain spot of the map, and he just rolls. And you have to come across the map, and while you're coming across the map, you're hoping that he doesn't roll something that affects you, that wipes your team out or stops you. And then the first chance that he gets where you're locked down, he shoots across him, and he does something. It's just not. He's just not a fun figure. And then people that play Faust, if you poll people at the World Championship, I think even the people playing him, I think the high majority of them would tell you that they hate him.
Yeah.
So that's my take on Faust. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, I really don't. I mean, I think they may, some of the powers, some of the things that were exposed, maybe I think they may have tried to eliminate to where that doesn't happen. But I really don't know what they're going to do. As far as the Pim Tank goes, okay, the Pim Tank was definitely the most played piece, and I predicted it. I told Anthony Barnstable, I hope he's listening to this. about 2 months ago. I said, Anthony, the Pim take is going to be on 90% plus of the teams. And he said, no, that won't happen. He says, everybody says that all the time, and I've yet to ever see a figure that does that. I said, Anthony, the Pim take's going to be, well, I was wrong. I think they were 100% of the teams.
I did not play against a single team that didn't have one.
It's crazy. I've never seen that at Worlds. I don't think that we have ever seen anything get played at all the way back that was on every team. I mean, I'm sure there was some team there that didn't have the Pim tank, but I mean, we had, what do you think? 98% or better had to have the Pim tank on it.
And that's a generous guess at best. But I mean, I played against in total 5 players. All 5 of them used it. You played against more than 5, and was there a single opponent you played against that didn't have it?
Everybody had the Pim tank. Nobody didn't play the Pim tank. Everybody. Yeah. I played nationals. I played. I mean, Team Worlds doesn't count, but I played 10 games on in the World Championship, and everybody had a Pim tank.
Yeah.
So that I stand. I have to say, I have to back up what I've said since day one. The Pim tank should never been made. It's just it's too powerful. It's too devastating to a team. It gets through too many things. I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, what I think is maybe that it's not going to be penetrating. Maybe it's not a penetrating power, and it's still powerful at that, but it's not as just being able to replace your figures and then be able to do things to figures that don't have a damage reducer. Still powerful.
Yeah.
I think that might be what they do, just where it's not penetrating. That just seems logical to me. That seems like the easiest fix to just make it not penetrating. They're certainly not going to do away with it, but they might modify it. Let's see, who else we got? We got Jakeem.
Jakeem and Goblin King.
Jakeem needs nothing done to him. Jakeem, his restrictive powers, the way they are, the way you have to pick it and you can't pick, you're limited to what you can pick at each turn, and the fact that the new rules are coming along that allow outwit, and you can outwit something that he doesn't necessarily that he may pick. For example, if Jakeem, you could outwit hypersonic speed on Jakeem, even though he hasn't chosen it yet. So then if he chooses it, he can't choose it because he can't use it. I think those things, I think that's enough of a restriction to keep him in check. Still going to be good, but I wouldn't change anything on Jakeem. Goblin King, I'm torn on that because I used him obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, he's powerful. I mean, just being able, he can literally have, if a good player, which I did this quite often during the tournament, you pick 4 powers. You basically get 4 different powers per turn if you think ahead. If you're thinking offense, you're picking something that you can use next turn, and hopefully getting to use it, and then use it, and then you go right back to defense, picking something defensively, and that's pretty strong. I don't know, maybe putting the same restrictions on him that they have on Jakeem, as far as not being able to pick. I mean, I was loaded up on defense sometimes. I already had shape change through the symbiote, and I had plasticity, and then I had impervious on the dial, and then I threw out invincibility and super senses on top of it. That means I'm loaded up on defense. So maybe you can only have 2 defensive powers, something along those lines. I don't know. I mean, that would make him less powerful. But the flip side of it is that if you think about what the Infinity Gauntlet does, he should be able to do that. Maybe the point cost that they put on him was not proper. Maybe Goblin King, this would have made a difference. Maybe he should have been 200 points, not 175. Maybe the 75 should have been 100 points. They're not going to change that, but if that would have been the way it was, that would have really probably still would have been played, but I think it would have changed things.
Mm. Oh, all good suggestions, and I always like to kind of challenge people with a little bit of game design talk and just kind of agree or disagree with the statements I'm about to make. They're not factual or anything like that. Do you think though that Goblin King saturation is a combination of the fact that he has 3-point values and can be on a various number of teams? And the other statement to address is, do you think maybe that what we saw as from Worlds is a result of it being the smallest version of the modern age that we see? Agree, disagree? Throw it to you.
I'd have to agree with that somewhat. I think that, when we talk about the Goblin King, we're looking at, I think that we had the most changing meta over the last 2 months that we've ever seen, meaning that it literally changed from week to week with set releases, figures being retired, and new figures being entered in the game at the last minute. The meta was just a mess. So the interesting thing is now, where does it go? We've got another set being released. We've got another set coming in. We know that Thor's coming out, and we know that there's going to be a ton of hammers, I think, is what they're so that you can equip.
Definitely weapons of some sort.
Yes. So that all those things, when you throw all those things out there, maybe the Goblin King isn't. Maybe he's not quite as powerful. Maybe there's other figures that are in the design that are going to change that. I mean, if you look at every time that I've ever seen a figure get made, and everybody was all like he's all powerful and everything, but usually a silver bullet comes along somewhere in there that shortly after. I don't know if that silver bullet was. I've often wondered if they made that silver bullet after the fact or if it was pre-planned. But usually something happens. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's going to be a figure that says that if you pick any powers, you take 1 damage. I don't know. There's going to be something that happens, I think, that we don't know. I mean, Wiz Kids, they're looking ahead at stuff that we don't see. So it's kind of hard to say that. It's kind of hard to make a decision based on what we don't, on a forecast that we don't know. They can do that better than us.
And one last kind of design statement that you could agree or disagree with. Do you feel there's an absence of Pulse Wave to help answer these issues? Like, I always talk about how I hate Pulse Wave as a power being used against me, but then I see in a world where we don't have nearly as much Pulse Wave as we once had, characters are able to dominate where Pulse Wave would be nice to have.
Well, I've used Pulse Wave extensively over the years, and of course you gain that, or you have the possibility of having that with the Goblin King and also with Jakeem. So it's still out there, but yeah, it's not as much. Me, on my team, I don't think it would have affected. It would have affected me if there were other figures with Pulse Wave, only because I was protecting myself from Pulse Wave most of the time anyway. So I mean, what you fear, my team, the Goblin, there was only 2 things he feared, and that was, and you know this because we played each other, and I told you so. I feared single target Pulse Wave and Nick Fury. That was it. Mm-hmm. And I protected myself against those things as best I could.
Your map choice against me was a big factor, and your positioning on my unwanted targets of the Joker and Ironheart. I have an episode talking about those 2 types of figures where it's just like and coming up, and it's your team that I almost came to the same conclusion on. Had that element where it's you get those 2 targets you don't want to deal with, but now we got to work around these in order to get that Pulse Wave off.
Exactly, and that was the purpose of the team, is that I just wasn't going to let you single target Pulse Wave Goblin. He never was single target Pulse Wave the whole weekend, and that's the thing. So I don't know that. I mean, the game is going to be changing quite a bit. I mean, a lot of the pulse wave and stuff that we get to get around things. I mean, like even calling in Nick is going to be harder to do because right now the Goblin King could sidestep and call in Nick. You won't be able to do that when the new rules come out. That changes him because the Goblin King, the way that it was being played this past weekend, it's by me anyway, or during Worlds, was the fact that he wasn't just using all of his powers, but he was calling in good call-ins that could do things. And that's going to be harder to do. Call-ins are going to be they're still going to be used, but they're not going to be nearly as powerful. I mean, Jean Grey with the free TK, you TK up, you do a call-in, or you TK, you sidestep, you do a free call-in, then you TK back, you figure dies that you just called in. You won't be able to do that anymore. It's going to change.
Awesome. All right. So all of this, we lead now into the part that brings you into one of the biggest members of the Heroclix community out there, and that is The Rock. You are one of the brainchilds behind it, as it were, and because you're part of that and running your own tournament system, I kind of want to talk about WizKids today. I think it was released their new trial set of kind of tournament setup. And just to bring it roughly down, they're attempting to stop the quote unquote turtling. And I don't know what it's so weird when I talk to people. I hear different definitions of turtling. I think you and myself are of the idea of I'm going to stay safe, kill one of your guys, and not protect myself for the rest of the game. And others consider it like stalling. That's neither here nor there. Their attempts to do this include changing the scoring system so that points are based on the number of characters you killed plus half of your survival points. And I want to get your thoughts on this because you're a big tournament organizer, and you do run The Rock your way, but you've seen ideas come across as far as tournaments are concerned. What do you think of this?
Well, first of all, I'll say two things there. I'm going to applaud them first. I'm going to applaud them first for trying something, and not just trying it, but that they're testing it rather than implementing it. Thank God they didn't implement it, and then we had to deal with it. What they said is, hey, we're going to try this. We're going to see what the results are, and then we'll make a decision. You there?
Yeah, I'm still here. I'm just doing things in the background that don't need to be seen on camera.
All right. Sorry about that. I thought I lost you for a second. But they're going to do things that they're doing something, and they're trying it out rather than implementing it, because I think that the community would have had an uproar if they would have just said, this is what we're doing. I think it would have been a huge debate, and you'd had people on both sides of the fences saying it was great or bad. I think actually, I've looked at it, and my initial reaction is bad. And what I mean by bad is I don't think that this is a good idea, and I'm going to tell you why. I remember I've seen the different scoring systems in WizKids. When we first started playing, the one that I used to hate the worst was that if in case of a roll off, the lower pointed figure. I mean, if you played each other and nobody KO'd anything, the lowest pointed team won. I don't know if you played during that, but that was awful.
I've been here since day one, so yeah.
So I remember people building a 260 point team with barrier and says, okay, you can't get to me, and I'm not going to try to get to you. I'm going to bury you up the whole time, and the game ends, and he wins. I hated that. I hated that with a passion. So that went away, and then when we first started playing, you added all of your survival points onto your the opponent what you KO'd. Okay, well that's all this is, except you're only getting half as many. So how is that helping? I don't see where it's helping, because all right, if I all right, the idea is to not promote turtling. So let's say I'm playing you, Jason. All right.
Yep.
So we both got 300-point teams. So I run across the board and I kill your 10-point figure. Okay. I've got 10 points. And so I run back and I bury her up and you can't get to me. Okay. So I'm going to get, my whole team has survived. So I'm going to get half of my survival points. I'm going to get 150 points plus the 10. So I'm going to have 160 points, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't KO any of my figures, and I'm still turtling in the back, and you're going to get 150 points. I win 160 to 150 opposed to winning 10-0. So actually, you don't. Let me correct that. You would actually get 140. No, you get 10. You get 145. I would win.
Yeah.
I would win 160 to 145. Correct.
Correct.
So how did that prevent turtling?
Now, the next part is, I think, the part where they think that happens. And I may be wrong, but instead of, our actual battle points mattering, they've created this tournament point system where if your score in the top 33% in the round, you get 3 points, and that's your actual score. If you're in the middle 33%, you get 2 points. And if you're in the bottom 33%, you get 1 point. And then you get an additional 1 point if you won. So you get 4 points if you score in the top 33% and got that point.
Well, okay, so by turtling, I'm only getting 165, so there's a chance by not scoring very many points that I'm going to be in the lower percentage. Is basically what they're saying. They're wanting us to go out there and okay, cool. But why do survival points matter?
That's where I start asking questions. Is like, do survival points actually make it a matter? Because, and I apologize for kind of jumping in there, but like, what you kill should still be what matters. What you lose shouldn't factor into that, because then I'm still required to a certain degree to play some kind of safe turtle strategy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if we're dependent on moving up and getting points the way that you just described, why does survival points matter at all? Why wouldn't you just use the KO points? Because you're trying to encourage KOing somebody else anyway. And that's a tough call.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Jason, there's games where I've played and you played where we went all out trying to KO the other guy's figures unsuccessfully.
Yep.
And what you're telling me is that because if I barely beat you, even though we're going all out all game, that I'm going to be in the lower end of it. And I don't know if I like that or not. Let me ask you a question. Do you think there's a need for change there? Do you think that there is?
I personally believe WizKid's system right now is the easiest to decipher, easiest to get through, and it does reward strong play as far as placement is concerned already. If you play a turtle team where you score 10 points and you got the win, if you eat a loss, you get dropped so far down the list.
Yeah.
You already get punished for losing as a turtle strategy. And I honestly think if you can win with the turtle strategy, you are like, if you lose one game, you've ripped yourself out of the tournament almost completely. Because even if, in a lot of cases, in some cases, a 4-1 is going to get in a 5-round tournament, but 4-1 might not on a bigger numbers. That 4-1 is probably who's getting it edged out is going to be one of those teams that turtle hasn't scored a lot of points. And I think the system they have already kind of deters the turtle strategy. You know what I mean?
Oh, I know, Matt. I know exactly what you mean. The other thing that I would say is that a tournament can be run without a computer right now, meaning that it's something that somebody can do and keep up with without a computer. When you go to this system, there's no way I don't think that you can not have a computer. I think it's going to be more difficult. I think you're complicating the system. I'm interested to see how it plays out. I'm interested to see what people say about that. I haven't read on Realms the comments and stuff yet. Most of the stuff that I've read on Facebook has been negative.
Yeah. And overall, a lot of people kind of are on the same side as me. It's like, how does this actually deter turtling? If anything, it's sort of to a certain degree promotes it.
Yes.
More than it does now.
Yeah, I agree. I don't see where it helps. Basically you could get more points by turtling than risking your team and losing all your survival points.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
Yeah.
I don't. But I applaud them for trying to address a problem. I applaud them for trying something. I just hope they don't implement it.
Yeah, I hope they kind of step back for a second and realize, kind of like what we said, the system is already there. The turtles are getting by because they made the turtles too strong.
Well, let me ask you this, because this has been an argument that Pat and I have had for years. He comes from, now people know who Pat is. He's our Rockhead judge, and he's been on the Rock board since day one, and he's a 2-time world champion, and team champion, and a Rock champion. So, and he's considered one of the best players in the world, but he's got a lot of background in Magic. In fact, he used to be on the Magic circuit. He used to be basically a professional Magic player, and so he's got a lot of history there. Point is, he's always pushed strength of schedule, and I've never been a proponent of that, because for a couple of reasons. I think that one, you have to have the software to run it. You have to have software to run strength of schedule.
Yeah,
strength of schedule doesn't really matter until round 2, because you have to have enough data in the system, so to speak, to determine what strength of schedule is. And I don't know that it's I don't think it's I haven't seen it be I don't feel like it's necessarily better than what we already got. So I've always been against it, but he's a proponent of it, and he runs most of his Majestics tournaments over there using strength of schedule. And what do you think of that?
I'm 50-50 on it. And like I just said, from a game design standpoint, if WizKids wants to continue allowing the ability to turtle, the strength of schedule will not work with the system. If they focus game design away from it and kind of keep away from the I'm not going to die, going to kill a thing, and I'll be fine strategy, or make it so that gets, punished in some way, shape, or form in game, then the strength of schedule can work. But right now, as we're having this discussion, WizKids wants turtling gone. Strength of schedule enforces it to a certain degree.
Oh yeah, it does. It encourages it, because all that matters is the win. You don't get any points; you just get a win.
Yeah.
And the better the opponent that you play, the higher seeded you are. That's really all that matters there. And it does. It does encourage you to create a team that you can that somebody can't kill, that you can kill something. Faust teams, and I think the turtling teams really what WizKids was looking at. The teams that are Faust teams are turtling teams, and it's not, turtling is a very loose term. The way that everybody defines it. To me, the teams that I hate are teams that just can sit there and do nothing. Let's go back to Patrick's World Championship, his first one. Okay, now Patrick is a great player, he and everything, but I hated the team that he had, and it's nothing. And I'm not saying that he was wrong in building the team, and it was the best team. Yeah. But at the time he used Iron Pharaoh before he got errated, and
Lara. And Lara, sorry.
Yes, Lara, and of course the battery. Yeah. So the battery, so he won map row. He goes to a map to where the battery can block any attack on Iron Pharaoh, and he's got a little hole where he can drop Lara in, and he's got the Falcon running around, and you can't close combat him. And if you if you range combat him, you can't single target pulse wave, and you have to shoot down. In the meantime, he's full force. He's got battery. He's got the Falcon. He's got Lara. He's got all this stuff working for him if you go all the way to the other side. And so he's sitting there at that, and that's basically the same principle that Faust has, that really that Matt had on his team that I played, is he just sat there. He's gonna sit there, and he's gonna, instead of attacking with the Falcon, he's attacking with Faust. Faust is his Falcon. He's just sitting there rolling the dice, shooting your team, picking your team up, shutting your team down, making you come across the board to try to do something. And when you do, he jumps you. It's like, okay, you went all the way across the board. Now I'm going to pounce on you and destroy you. And that was Patrick's concept, and that's Matt's concept. And I think that what WizKids saw is that. They saw that that's what was going on, and they're like, hey, we need to do something about this. Well, my answer to that is get rid of Faust.
Yep. Yeah. The long range cannons must go. I mean, I think even does the new Phantom X work through? I don't know how the new Phantom X works. So am I kidding? I don't think he's nearly close to as bad as the original Phantom X was, but he was another one that allowed that type of play.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. And again, if the strategy is available, I'll never poo-poo a player for using it.
Exactly. That's what I was trying to say, is that I have no problem with it, but I hated that. I hate that scenario, and that's not Pat's fault. That's WizKid's fault for creating it. And yeah, Phantom X and Iron Pharaoh and Faust. I think that those, in a way, you could even go a little bit further back and say Metron Nightcrawler, because they created a situation where Metron could sit back and Nightcrawler could go so far out and just keep attacking you, and you can never get to him. So if you really look at it, those elements in the game, they got to quit. They got to quit making that situation. And if they did that, then they would do away with deterring.
Absolutely. All right. Now that we're done talking. Everything okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I was wondering if that was me or you. We're not sure. Anyway, now we're done talking a little bit game design. Let's talk about tournament design. There's some big stuff coming up with The Rock that we wanted to talk about. So I'm going to let you go away with it. The Rock, we have the state and provincials coming up.
Well, just today we finally posted where all the venues were, all the states, all the dates, all the times, all the provincials is all posted finally. And we have more this year than we've ever had. So that's great. We're right at 50. Now, we lost a few places, but we gained a lot of places that I really been wanting to have. I mean, you and I are meeting in Hawaii, right? We're going to go play there.
In my wildest dreams.
I am so stoked that we got a Hawaii state championship. I think that is just the most awesome thing. I've been working on that for like 3 years, and finally to have somebody step up and take it, I am so excited. I cannot wait to make that post on Hawaiian teams. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've got every. Now, I'm not trying to offend any state, but we've got every major state in the United States. And what I mean by that is that population density wise, we've got them all. The states that are hard to get, that we never really count on getting: Montana, Wyoming, Idaho 1 year. I don't think we have South Dakota this year either. The population base in the cities and everything are a lot less there. So that means that there's a Heroclix community. So we really don't, even though that we would like to have every single state, we realize that there's a problem there. I mean, you're never going to see a WizKids open in those places. You're never going to see much rock, if any at all, in those states. It's just the way that it is. But again, we would love to have them. But we've got there's nothing that we don't have. We haven't had Minnesota in a couple years. We got Minnesota this year. We haven't had Nebraska in a couple years. We got Nebraska this year. We got Hawaii for the first time ever. Every state on the east, Delaware, Rhode Island, Maine, all the way down is covered. And I'm very excited about that fact. We made errors last year. Our first year running states and provinces was really good. We had good turnouts, and we had some states that had 70 people show up, which is crazy because that's bigger than some of the super qualifiers and regionals that we run, and definitely bigger than WizKids Opens. I mean, that's just crazy. And we had several states that had high population. Last year was a big dip. I would say we were probably 30% down last year in attendance overall. We attribute that to being too smart, meaning that we thought we tried to run it right before Origins, thinking that would be a good thing, and it was a bad thing. People didn't want to. We thought people would want to go out and play, maybe play their teams that they wanted to run at Worlds, maybe just get a little bit experience. But what happened is people didn't want to play because they were saving their money, or they didn't want to show their team, or maybe the excitement just wasn't as much because there was other things that had been going on. And so we had a dip in attendance. So we corrected that, I think, twofold this year, in that we moved it between the cons and between the Rock Cup. And we picked dates that didn't interfere with anything else. And that's the other big thing, is that we always have run one weekend. And this year, this was something I wanted to do, and I got everybody to agree to. We'd let them run 2 weekends. That gave flexibility to the venue to run it when they wanted to. And it also gave venues and states and provinces the ability to work with each other to be able to run it on different dates, where players could go back and forth and play in multiple states and increase overall attendance. And I think that's a good thing. So I think we have to protect our venues. We want our tournaments to be successful. So if we can boost attendance and keep them happy and keep players happy by having higher competition, that's what we wanted. And so, and the other thing is, and Jason, you can tell me if you feel this way too. I feel like there's a bigger buzz right now about states and provinces than I've ever seen. It just seems a lot of people are talking about it. You feel the same way?
I do. The conversation is definitely a lot louder. More people are talking about it. I've actually only just started talking about my local provincials, but people are already getting super excited about it. A lot of people are already starting to get in on the win page, because I'm personally judging and running the Ontario provincial championships up here in north of the border. So,
yeah, but I really see it. I agree with you. I think that there's just people have been talking about it even before we went to Origins. People are talking about it in their states team and planning. And I know people that are planning on going to 3 or 4 of these things, and that the states have worked together to where they can. One's a Saturday, another one's a Sunday. We'll probably attend 2 to 3 ourselves. We get to. Hey, what do you think of Derek? Didn't you have Derek on your show?
Darren, the national champion.
No. The guy from, was he on your? No, that was on Aaron's show. I know you listened to it. The guy from Georgia.
Oh, yeah. Blow Your Face Off. Yeah, I listened to his show.
I love the guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's called me out, but I don't care. I love the guy. I think we need I think we need more characters in the game that are like that. But anyway, he's in Georgia, and we'll probably get to meet the guy. We're looking forward to seeing how he plays. And if he beats me, if I'm lucky or unlucky enough to play him and he loses, kudos to him. That's the game. So I mean, I want him to be successful because I think that we need more people in the game. I like seeing the excitement in the game. I like that these guys are playing every day and practicing and getting up and drawing more people into it. Atlanta needs that. It should already be that way over there. So I think it's great.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm looking at my chat, and apparently my Saints hat is drawing some ire. So I'm been in the middle of banning some unfortunate people.
Oh.
Get a life.
Okay.
Oh man. All right. So now you wanted to talk, and we talked about this before the show, about some of the big things on the horizon for the Rock, and I think a lot of our fans who are fans of going to Rock tournaments or competitive play in general want to hear your big ideas. So the floor is yours, sir, on that one.
There's actually three things I want. I'm touch on the first one. I didn't even mention this to you before. I'm going to touch on it really quick. Next week we will be starting the object contest. Okay, and I'm going to ask you this because I'm working with somebody, and if we can get the cost right, how would you think about? We do the poker chips every year, and we what we do is we take it to Realms. You get to vote on it. We give everybody free poker chips that win the contest. Give them a complete set. But let's say for example, the tank is a heavy object. Okay, there's no more ultra heavy or ultra light. It's all heavy or light. But let's just say that there's a tank, which is a bad example, but I'm going to just say a tank anyway. So the tank wins as a heavy object. Okay, so what we've done in the past is we've taken a poker chip, put a red stripe around it, put a tank on there, which is pretty cool. People are pretty excited about that. What if we made that tank a red tank and made it a 3D object?
That would be so awesome. I'd love the idea of 3D object. I love extra bitty like extra jiggly bits. Like I was jealous of your power picker.
Yeah.
Oh man, I was so jealous. I wanted it so bad, and I forgot to get in touch with the guy who made them ahead of time. Oh man, I was super jealous of that. I love stuff like that, and 3D heavy objects would be super awesome.
Well, it would be light objects too. I mean, what I thought, the idea that I'm pitching right now is to make 3D objects, but all of our light objects, they would just be yellow. That way they're easy to identify. And all of our heavy objects would be red.
Okay.
Real simple. I mean,
yeah.
And then, of course, people that want to paint them, go for it.
Yeah, just leave that base. Like, I'm sure, if the plan would be to have like a base around it or something like that, leave that part yellow or red, and that still makes it nice and easy.
So that's what we're thinking about doing, and we're still tossing that idea around. If we can make it where it's the cost is right, I would like to do that. So that's something that's brand new. The next thing that's brand new is that we're planning on lowering kit costs for super qualifiers. We tried something with regionals this year. We lowered the price of them, and it seemed to work really well. And super qualifier kits cost a venue $650. Well, attendance is down at super qualifiers overall, but they're also down on WKOs, in my opinion, overall. We still have big super qualifiers. We still have big WKOs. But if you look at it, at all of them as a whole, they're down. Now, I don't think that's because we have less Heroclix players. I think that it's because we have a saturated market and because players have the ability to choose where they want to play. When we first had Rocks out, one, we had, of course, the excitement. There was no competition with WKOs. And we were the only thing in town at that time. And you didn't, and Rocks were spread out over time, so people, the attendance, I think that bumped attendance. You didn't have as many places to choose from. Now there's a lot more Rock tournaments. There's a lot more WKOs, and people choose what they want to go to because maybe you got 2 events in the next 4 weeks, and you're like, well, I'll go to this one. I'm not going to go to that one. They choose. So I think that's what's happened. And so the other thing is of course we'd like attendance to go up, but I'm also a realist, and I see the way things are. And so rather than try to create something to bring everybody in, and which if I could, I would, but I just don't know what that would be. I'd rather fit the plan to what we're getting. So the only way we can do that, because we want to keep venues happy, is lower the price. So instead of targeting, 26 people to break even on super qualifiers, maybe we'll target 18 to 20 people to break even of super qualifiers. And if you go and look at the stats for the year, if we were targeting that number, every venue would be happy because we've had some tournaments that have had exactly that number. So I think that makes venues happier, and I think it makes a. Now, how do we do that? It's very simple. We take the convention exclusives out. Now, now people go, what? You take well? How excited are people over convention exclusives that are a year old in a saturated market anymore? Not very much.
Yeah.
These things, by the time we get them out, the value is depreciated so much that some of them you literally can buy for $15 to $20 on eBay. So it's not really, the value's not there. So what we do there is we pull those out, which saves an immense amount of money. We lower the quantity of tokens and dice just a little bit, and a few other things, and we reduce our kit cost down to where the venue's paying a lot less for it, and we're targeting a lot less people. Then what we do is that we set something up, and I've got it in my head. I haven't put it on paper yet, but it's in my head. We set this up with the venues. We structure it on a tier program because it kind of sucks if we're sitting there at 18, 20 people, and the venue gets in there and he has 50 people. Well, we want him to provide additional pricing for that. So what we'll do is we'll set up a tier program that if he for every so many people that the venue has to provide pricing. What we would do is do that in the form of product. So it's, for example, if the break-even point was 20 and let's say they had 40, well, maybe they need to throw out a case of the latest set, and that trickles down from first place on down. We'll set it up to show them how to do that. So that way the venue and the players and everybody's still happy, because honestly, I just pose you this question, Jason. Would you rather have a brick of the latest product or a con exclusive from last year?
I'd rather have a brick of the latest.
Exactly. And so that's our thinking too. And now we're not going to force a venue that's already throwing out a lot of prize support. And I'll use myself for an example. I run a tournament every year and I throw out a ton of stuff. And I'm not going to be required to do that. And on top of that, throw out a case of product. I'm already throwing out enough stuff. But if a venue is not throwing out that extra stuff anyway, he's going to be required to follow this system. So that's what we're going to there. I think that we'll see an increase in super qualifiers. I think that we'll make the venues more happy. And I have no problem with having a lot more 16 to 20 man super qualifiers throughout the country. I'd rather have 100 of those than 10 that have got 50 in them.
Cool. So if you got a store, you've been kind of tentative on the super qualifier end of things. This is actually probably a good way to get in on the ground floor on that one.
Yes.
The Canadian dollar still prevents me, but that's not your fault.
I know that sucks. That sucks with the Canada thing. Of course, there's little ways around that that we won't discuss. But anyway, there are ways to get that stuff to you. But yeah, it does make a difference when it goes out of country, which is really why you don't see not just rock totally worldwide, and you don't see WizKids really totally worldwide, because people would like to buy rock kits, but the import costs and the shipping costs are so crazy to ship them out that it doesn't. I mean, we had Australia wanting to run a circuit of rocks last year, and the shipping to them, it just didn't work out. So that's sad, because I'd love to see a rock just be totally worldwide. I'd like to see WizKids be totally worldwide, but its distribution is tough. So that's coming. Now I got one more thing that I want to talk about that's new. That's to do with, and I've been brewing on this one for close to a year. and I'm ready to do something, but I need help, and I need a particular person. I don't know who that person is, but I need somebody. I've got I've got, I know what I want. I need somebody to take what I want and implement it and be able to run it with me being involved, but them doing the brunt of the work. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't have time to do this. I can't take it on as a complete project, but I would like to be involved in it and as far as providing direction. But I need somebody to run with it. And what I would like to see in the very near future is to start to run rock tournaments online, super qualifiers online. Um, there's been a lot of places that have been doing online tournaments. Um, I've got some ideas on what I would like to see done. I don't know if everything that I want done can be done, and that's what this person has got to determine. We need to test it. Um, and the way, and I've also already talked to TCG Player about this. Um, and the ideas that we have, the pricing for these tournaments will be a little bit different. We would probably have set amount of people for it to launch. For example, maybe it's a 16-man tournament, maybe it's a 32-man tournament, or person tournament. I shouldn't say man, but they would be we would lock in at a certain amount of players, and the cost would be the same as playing in a regular super qualifier. You would just pay into the tournament, and the pricing would be delivered in two ways. It would be delivered by mail, and it would be delivered, and it would also be delivered possibly by email. And what I mean by that is we get points cards and stuff like that, right? Well, we think that all we got to do is just send those codes possibly through email to people, where they could actually get it and basically a print play TCG player card and be able to still use it towards rock points. We think we can do that. The sending the maps out is a little bit of a problem because of the cost of the maps. But anyway, we think that we can make it work. We think that we could make it where it's worth our while. I'd like to see at least one a month. I might like to see one a weekend. It's possible that this could be so popular that we could run one a week or one every 2 weeks. I really don't know. There could be multiple ones going on at the same time. I would prefer to run it like a regular tournament, and that's where I need somebody to get involved in. What I pictured was having a limited number of maps that somebody could use. In other words, we want to have players, when they play, they have to play on a common map.
Gotcha.
Right. And I was just watching Patrick play. Not Patrick, but I was watching. Did you watch the grudge match between PJ and Paris the other day?
I was actually deep involved at work at the time, but I had heard about it. Well,
Patrick is using a program where it puts up any map, and the figures go on there, and then you're able to move them around. The big problem that I have is time and judging, and how to make that work. Most of the tournaments that have been run online in the past is they've done them to where the players schedule their events and they have a judge on hand. What I'm thinking about is maybe we could run a tournament on Saturday, 16 players, for example, and have 1 to 2 judges for all the players. In other words, they'd be tied into each other, and when they need a judge to get involved, they hit a little button, and the judge goes over there and he's honed in on them, and he makes a ruling and goes on to the next one. Maybe instead of being 50-minute games, maybe they need to be an hour games. I don't know how long. I don't know if setup is more or less. It didn't seem to me like Patrick and PJ's game took any longer than any regular game that I've ever seen. So what do we use? What maps do we use? How do we use them? All those kind of things. I've got ideas, but I need somebody to come in and say that I want to do this, and they have the capabilities and the time to do it. I'm looking for that person. So that's something I would like to do. It can't be me. I don't there's not enough me. I've got other things going on in my life right now, um, and, uh, and what I do on rock takes up enough of my time. I can't do more.
Yeah, it's probably not going to be me because between work, family, and trying to get up the Heroclix events myself, it's. But if you're looking to get in touch with Howard, with you, Howard, with the interest of helping you organize this and helping get this across, how would they contact you?
Now they can contact me on Facebook is probably the easiest way. I mean, also Rims, obviously. I'm one of those weird people that my name is the same everywhere I go. If you go onto Realms, it's Howard Brock. If you go into Facebook, it's Howard Brock. When I used to play HeroClix online, it was Howard Brock. Um, my WizKids ID, it's Howard Brock. So it's the same everywhere.
All right. So if you're looking for Howard Brock, you'll find him.
That's right.
All right. And now, and I have to ask, you got so much stuff from winning both Worlds and Team Worlds. You got to be doing something with all of that stuff. And I know you're already a lucrative eBayer. Is that where it's all going to go, or do you have future ideas beyond that?
Well, we're actually working on something right now. I mean, we're right in the middle of it, and I hope that within actually the next couple of weeks that we have this secured. We began the eBay business a few years ago, and let me give you a little bit more history. Back in the day, I'm talking like 10 years ago. I used to have a company, and I sold a lot of stuff on eBay. Um, it was just primarily HeroClix, extra stuff that we had, stuff that we won, stuff that I would go to conventions and buy stuff and resell it, and so on and so forth. And then I started a company, started my current company, and I was on the road with them a lot. They're a sales based company, and I was literally I was on the road most of the year working with them. I still do go on the road with them some, but not nearly as much. I have a partner, and we have a general manager, and we're not required to be there all the time. Sometimes we're there more than not. Sometimes it seems like we go for a long period of time. We're not out there at all. But when I did that, I let the eBay business go because I was gone all the time, and it just sat there for a while. So I started accumulating a lot of stuff downstairs, stuff that we won, stuff that had extras of, and duplicates, and all that kind of stuff. And I kept telling my wife that eBay there was money to be made on eBay, and so finally I said we're going to do it. And she really didn't believe that we would make that much money, but we did, and we started selling on eBay, and we started a new company. It's called Lucky Dice Games, and our real name is Lucky Dice Cafe. Now, on eBay, it's Lucky Dice Games, but it's Lucky Dice Games is Lucky Dice Cafe. Now, why did we do that? Because when we started this, we had a dream and a plan that we would build this business up to a point where we had the money to have our own gaming store, and we wanted to have our own place. We had a unique idea. We wanted to be a gaming cafe. There's a lot of gaming cafes in Canada. I'm sure you're aware of that. It's very popular. They're very popular in Canada.
Yeah.
And ours is kind of the same concept. We want to. That's what we wanted to do. So we just now got to the point of building that business. I literally probably got, Jason, $30,000 in inventory in HeroClix and other stuff sitting upstairs. I've got probably $25,000 worth of stuff that I've bought, shelving. I didn't pay that much for it. J.C. Penney's went out of business here locally, and we went in and we bought POS systems. We bought jewelry cases. We bought shelving. We bought all of it, tables. We spent about $1,600 and got probably $20,000 worth of stuff. And it's all out in my garage. And so that we have that. We have the money. We have the finances. We built ourselves up, and we just been looking for the ideal location now, and we think that we found it. And we think that we will probably this fall be moving in. We have to secure the place. We have to negotiate the deal, and then we have to move in, and we have to do some things, obviously. But we've been working and setting this up and working with people to do it the way that we want to do it. Our concept is that it is a gaming cafe. We're going to have we're going to start off with just basically sandwiches and gamer food, so to speak. But we're going to do high quality sandwiches. We're going to expand that down the road, probably into a full restaurant. Gamer people will be able to come in. But what we've determined is that this generation of people, we're called millennials, and millennials are more interested in an experience rather than anything else. So our goal is to give them an experience, and so we're going to have you come in and eat a sandwich. You can sit down and get a board game like Monopoly or whatever. There'll be some other games, but you can sit there and play your game for free in the store. Sit down with your family, sit down with a group, come in there and play. We'll have tables set up in the cafe to sit there, play, have a cup of coffee, have a bowl of soup, have a sandwich, have some of all of it, have a snack, and sit there and play. And that's what we want to do. And then on the other side of it, there'll be a little bit of a separation. Will be our actual gaming store, and we'll have a full retail store selling games, miniatures, the whole 9 yards. And then we'll have more tables on the back side of that where we have events, tournament events, and Heroclix events and Magic events, and we'll be a full gaming store. And our idea is that we want it to be experience. We'll do demos. Say we're doing Monopoly. We may have somebody. We'll have a Monopoly, say on Tuesday. Monopoly. Everybody comes in and plays Monopoly on Tuesday night. Plays it for free. We'll give away some stuff. We'll have a guy dressed up with a Monopoly hat, like the old guy, the top hat, and he's going to tell you what the history is behind Monopoly, and he's going to set everybody up, and everybody's going to play. We're going to make things an experience for everybody.
Awesome, that's a great idea. And yeah, you're right. The board game cafes locally have definitely taken off. Most famously in Toronto is a place called Snakes and Lattes. More of a coffee shop board game thing, and there's a little bit of a rental fee with regards to the board games.
Yes.
But, I mean, your idea of more of a restaurant with featuring board games seems to be a very solid idea. Don't invite me on Monopoly night. I might hit the Monopoly guy. I'm not a fan of the game myself.
But we're gonna feature all games. I mean, our idea is to, when we get new games in, we want people, what I'm looking at is something like this. You come in, like we do a 2-month circuit. So every time you come in and you play on Tuesday night, we award you so many points for playing. And maybe if you win, we give you some more points or whatever. So you're accumulating points. We'll keep a board up. And at the end of 2 months, we'll give you some kind of grand prize. We want people coming back every week to learn new games and to have fun. We want people to come in there and hang out. We want people to say, man, I want to go back down there. We want to play. We want to learn something else new. It was so much fun last week. So much fun meeting all these people. That's what we're trying to create. It's something brand new. And we pride ourselves on customer service. On Lucky Dice, on eBay, we have 100% positive feedback. We ship out everything immediately. Literally, our auction's in on Sunday night. My wife and I pack everything on Sunday night. We're usually up to 1 o'clock in the morning working, packing everything. Monday morning, we're shipping those stuff out and shipping out more stuff. People will get their stuff fast. And if somebody has a problem or they're unhappy, I don't care what it is. I take care of them. If I got to refund them, take the stuff back. If I got to replace it, if I got to give them something extra, we believe in the customer. We believe in customer satisfaction, and that will transpose over to Lucky Dice Cafe. We will be the same way and use the same mindset there.
Awesome. I love the idea, and if I ever find myself in the area, the area is going to be Sorry, where area?
Huntsville, Alabama. Is where
Huntsville, Alabama. Okay.
Yep.
If I find myself there, I'm all over it.
Well, you and Amber, especially Amber now, you guys are welcome here anytime you want to come. If you ever want to take a vacation, you're welcome to stay in our house for free, and we'll be more than glad to feed you and hang out with you and do anything you want. There's a lot of stuff to do here. We do have the Space and Rocket Center amongst other things here.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is officially on the internet. You heard him here. All right. Howard, it's been a pleasure. It's time to get to the fan questions. You're no longer here for me. Our fans have some ideas or some questions for you. And This one comes from Tyler Murrin, and he has a question. First of all, he leads in congratulations on Howard.
Thank you.
Did you happen to see the match Easton played against Matty G in the finals? What were your thoughts, and did that game have any kind of effect in your strategy and placement once you knew you'd be playing Matt on the same map? Because it looked like maybe you took the outside because going up the middle didn't fare Easton too well, unfortunately. No offense, because everyone had an amazing showing at Worlds.
I did not see the match against Easton. I heard about the match. I mean, he told me about the match. I did not know the path that he took up there. I took my own path. My idea when I was playing the game was to sneak up, was take my time getting to him until I got in position to be able to make attack. That didn't work so well for me as most of my team got blown up en route. If I had to play the game over with, I probably just would have just oh, the heck with it. I'm just going up there. But I didn't, and it looked kind of bad there at first. Although, again, my team was built for resiliency, and it didn't. Even though I was getting stuff taken out, I wasn't losing very many points. Mm-hmm. Easton's match. I've heard the details of it. I haven't watched. I think that it's on. You could actually watch the match somewhere online. I have not watched it, but I do know what happened. I'm actually kind of proud of my son in the way he handles himself. I mean, he's there's two ways to play this game, and you got everybody's got their opinion on this, but this is the way that we play, or try to play. There's some things that we won't let you take back. For example, if you were to hypersonic speed up to my figure and attack me, and I've got plasticity, you're not going to get that back. But if you have not done anything, or if your placement's not exactly correct and you're trying to do something, or you're trying to do something that you really can't do, we let you move and take back. We're not that kind of player. Other players try to win sometimes on what I call a technicality, and meaning that if you do something and that you can't do, they won't let you take it back and won't let you move. And I'm not saying that what Matt did was wrong, by no means. I'm only saying that I'm proud of my son in the way that he plays the game, because he won't do that no matter what the situation is. If it's for the championship, if it's the last move of the championship, I've seen my son do this. He plays the game the way I think that it ought to be played, and I like that. I'm very proud of him for that. And everybody will have an opinion about how they think that ought to be, and I don't fault somebody for the technicality in the way they play the game, because technically they're right, but it's not the way that we like to play the game. We like to be a little bit more loose, and we want the player to either really lose to us or really beat us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I get that. Personally, my big no take backs are, like you said, plasticity on hypersonic is like, well, that's why I brought plasticity. I gotta have to punish you on that one. Or dice rolls and dials. If either of them have moved, that's my no take backs.
I agree.
Yeah. All right. Next up, and I'm trying to read this. I'm gonna try my best here. It's from Miguel Copeland. Congrats, Howard. Not a new player to competitive games, but a fairly new Heroclix player approaching 1 year. With the new watch list and complaints about the new meta, how would a figure draft play out after cuts to top 8? play what you want normally, but when the cuts come, you restrict the draft pool to those on the watch, ban list, and snake draft for 15 rounds, give or take. Once the draft is complete, you play the next day, gives time for practicing and scouting your opponents. I believe this is a true spectacle. And we'll also test players in the way they haven't been played in the past. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks, guys. And once again, congrats.
Well, playing something like that. You're basically creating a different game. That's the way I look at that. It's a different game. As far as the watch list and figures and the meta and so on and so forth, let me tell you something. We could eliminate every single figure that's on the watch list, and new figures would rise that people would bitch about.
Yeah, and ban them all. 4 new figures would be the new thing, right?
Exactly. That it's just the way that it is. I've been playing this game for a long time, and there's always something that's rise to the top that somebody didn't like. Shazam, Metron, Nightcrawler. Gosh, man, it was the Super Scroll of recent. Iron Pharaoh. The list goes on and on and on and on for years, and the watch list. Maybe it's going to tone some of those figures. Maybe it's not. We don't know. But the point is that there's always going to be something to replace it. As the Wiz Kids used to do a thing a few years ago for their championship, to where they did a sealed event for day one, and they did a what they called a what is it? You take half your build. It's got to be the latest set. What is that? That's a I can't think of what it's called. But you take half your build. Half your build has to be from the latest set, and then you can build whatever with it.
Oh, it used to be called floor.
Floor, exactly. So they did that, and then you could qualify in each one of those days by finishing so high, and then they took the combined points to determine the remaining spots that they were allowing in Worlds. So, and then in Worlds, you finally get it constructed, and so in a way that tested every facet of the game in determining who the world champion is, in my opinion. So maybe something like that one day might be better. Personally, I like building teams, and I like if you ask me what's the big thing about winning Worlds to me, I created a team that won. That's what's cool about it. And I think that's what everybody would tell you. I mean, it's not that I won it, it's that I created a team that won it.
Yep. There's differing opinions on sealed right now. I'm personally in the boat that the sealed in the game needs a lot of work. So I see where people get hesitant and whatnot. All right. I'm going to mess this one up. Uzel Alejandro Oliden. What do you think WizKids will actually do to the watches? I think we already covered that, right?
Yeah, we pretty much did.
Yeah.
And it's
okay. Okay. William McMillan, I'm going to kind of truncate some of this because you're kind of in 3 different places. First of all, he says thanks for winning one for the old guys, because he just turned 40 this year, and he started playing with his nephew this year. He wants to know, I feel like they nerfed the super rare Iron Man in this interpretation of pick power. I feel like it should be either pick 2 powers or use the powers on the dial. That's kind of how it works. So I think there's some cyclical logic in there.
Well, yeah, I actually, they didn't nerf him, in my opinion. They actually made him better when they gave him flight. He should have had flight all along.
Yeah.
So I think Iron Man. Here's the thing: Iron Man is damn good, but in comparison to Jakeem and the Goblin King, he's not so good.
Yeah.
And that's what it amounts to. And it's if Goblin King and Jakeem had the same restrictions as I guess you would say Iron Man does, I think Iron Man would see just as much play.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Next up, Jackson Agar. What pieces do you think should be played with Jakeem for an upcoming states? He wants you to build a team for him.
Well, with Jakeem, I there's lots of ways to go with Jakeem, and I mean you have to look at you're targeting states, and the new rules haven't taken effect. So I played Jakeem, and I like to run mystical teams. I mean, I ran Jakeem, and I ran the Hat, and I ran Clarion, and I had some call-ins, and seems like I had something else there too. But the Hat, he's got a pickup power, so he can do some for TK, and I love what Clarion does, and that's a different way of playing him also, where he's still very good. The Goblin King at 75 points was being run a lot with Jakeem because he was more of a support figure. He could heal Jakeem, he could TK Jakeem, he could do all those things. Jean Grey is an awesome piece to use with Jakeem because it provides a lot of movement. Call-ins are probably, to me, it's kind of like you're arming your figure. Okay, so call-ins are probably the most powerful thing in the game. And quite honestly, it's not Jakeem, it's not Goblin King. It's what they can call in. It's like you're giving them a utility belt of figures, and those things are very important on what you pick. Nick Fury as a call-in, and Cosmic Spidey and Hawkeye are probably the three top call-ins in the game if you can get them. And then you got the other thing that you got to have on your team. We already discussed it, the 10 thing.
It sounds like you just rebuilt my team. All right. Aaron Morgan, what did you think of the Supreme Proteus Joker combo? Looking forward to what's coming in the future, brother.
Yep, Aaron is a local guy that I actually know. He's from Chattanooga, and he's actually Aaron is he's involved a little bit with me in the cafe, just so you know.
Cool.
The haha with Joker is pretty awesome. I mean, you get the plus on stats, and Proteus really doesn't affect him. And I was watching the game with PJ and Paris, and Paris's team had haha with Proteus on it. And I think that the Joker with Proteus ended up being the last man standing in their second game. So yeah, the boosted stats by getting Joker's damage and stuff up, and it's really good.
All right. Well, that leads us to the end of the fan questions. Howard, I want to thank you very much for joining us today, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Is there anything you want to say before we make our way out?
I think we've covered it all. I really, the two things I'm looking forward to right now is states and seeing the results and the teams and the excitement, and then it's the Cup. We're not very far from the Cup. I think that we're going to have a huge turnout in the Cup this year. We're going to be doing. There's a possibility now. I'm still working on it. But Scott Crampton wants to do a welcome event on Thursday night for the Cup. And he's going to run a tournament he wants to run a tournament and do a little podcast and all that. And I'm trying to help him get that done. If I can get the hotel to cooperate with us. So be looking for that. But I'm really looking forward to the Cup this year. I'm not playing this year. But
no Triple Crown for you.
No Triple Crown. But I will play some of the side events. I may play in the Super Qualifier. Definitely playing in the team event, but I will not play in the big money event. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. I mean, it's actually it's a little bit more relaxed, and I don't think if anybody as a player that I'm going to get to relax a little bit and enjoy everybody and be able to go around and talk to people, and I enjoy doing that too.
All right. Thank you very much again, Howard, for joining us. It's the first time you've been here. And thank you guys for watching live. And if you're watching in America, thank you very much. Have a wonderful night. And I look forward, Howard, to seeing you, if not before then, at Rock World Cup.
Sounds awesome.